Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. We're coming at you again with Mock Draft Monday. That is right, another rendition here on the channel of the latest for the mock draft coming here into 2022. A lot to break down from the last college football week. We also have a video up on the channel about the AP Top 25, so go check that out after today's video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video as well, and subscribe if you're new. Let's jump into it, Austin, here with your Jacksonville Jaguars pick number 1. Another disappointing loss. They were close in that game. Could not get the job done against Tennessee. Derrick Henry did what he does, put up 3 touchdowns today against your Jaguars. Where should Jacksonville look to build up this roster, especially amidst all the drama in that locker room?
They have to look on the defensive side of the ball. Once again, I'm going to have Kayvon Thibodeaux be the pick for Jacksonville, just considering they need a little more edge rushing help. Him and Josh Allen could be a dynamic edge rushing duo, one of the best in the league, if Thibodeaux lives up to what I think he can be. Definitely a very stout run defender, also a developmental pass rusher, very, very good athlete on top of it. So this could be a very good pick for them. Obviously, it really kind of depends on what happens at the quarterback towards the top of the draft. Maybe they're able to trade out and accumulate more assets.
Right, that could be a very good pathway for Jacksonville to continue looking to really build up this team. They have quite a few needs, but Kayvon Thibodeaux could be the best player in this year's class and really fills a big one at that edge spot across from Josh Allen. I would love that for Jacksonville. Duval County are getting a phenomenal edge rusher here in Kayvon Thibodeaux, someone who has a ton of potential at that edge spot. Moving into pick 2, we have the Detroit Lions very narrowly lost to the Minnesota Vikings. I think it was surprising how competitive they were in that game, especially with the late Alexander Madison fumble, able to come back, almost take advantage with a 2-point conversion. Did not get the job done, though, defensively, gave up a field goal to Greg Joseph to win that game. And now they sit here at pick 2, Austin, with a ton of different needs. We've been looking quarterback, but also defensively, there are quite a few needs for this team as well. I think that was clear from today's game against the Minnesota Vikings. Where should Detroit look at pick number 2?
I think Detroit will look on the defensive side of the ball. I'm actually going to have them take Kyle Hamilton, the safety. Kyle Hamilton's versatility as a safety is incredible. He can play that high safety. He can play in the box. There's so much that you have to love about his game. Detroit could pair him with a guy like Tracy Walker, and they could be pretty set in that secondary. Obviously, I think that they have a little ways to go at the corner spot. Hopefully, Jeff Okudah can prove to be that top-tier talented corner like he was coming out of college as, but it just hasn't been, sunshine and rainbows in that department. However, the Detroit Lions are arguably taking the best player available. There's one other player on the board that you really could consider there, but I opted to go with Kyle Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton, a rangy safety coming from Notre Dame. I think this is a phenomenal grab for that Detroit Lions defense. They need someone who's going to be a playmaker on the back end of that defense, and there's no one better in this class, in my opinion, at being that level playmaker than Kyle Hamilton. Pick 3, we've got my New York Jets here. A big-time loss to the Atlanta Falcons today in London. Started out that game terribly, and they've struggled all year long, especially in the first quarter, where they have yet to have a touchdown in the first quarter of games. It's been a real struggle for the New York Jets. However, there's a lot of struggles on the other side of the ball as well. Bryce Hall, I was going to commend him today until all of a sudden a 3rd and 13 came up. Olamide Zaccheaus looks like a great wide receiver in that situation, I guess, with some off coverage. Bad situation for the New York Jets. They need a lot of different places. We've been mocking Derek Stingley as of late. Does that stay true here at pick 3, Austin?
I do think that they actually look at Evan Neal potentially at this spot. However, I opted to go with Derek Stingley, but I think there is something to be said about Evan Neal and his ability to play right tackle. You would have 2 great tackles heading, commending that offensive line. That is going to be your base. However, I think they need a corner even worse. Derek Stingley Jr. can be a playmaker in that secondary. Him and Bryce Hall would be a nice combination at the corner spot.
Stingley offers elite athleticism and really good man-to-man coverage options for the New York Jets. They badly need help in that department. I'm hoping Stingley's the pick. I would love to see Derek Stingley playing for my New York Jets next season. Pick number 4 here now. It says the Indianapolis Colts. This pick is slated to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, assuming that Carson Wentz meets the 75% snaps played threshold this season. So now, picking here for Philadelphia, Austin, which way do you see the Eagles going at this spot?
There's a couple of different directions that they could go. I see DeMarvin Leal actually being the selection. He offers so much versatility on that defensive line, and they could be looking for that best player available. He can play tackle. He can play edge. There's so much to like about his game. and he's been extremely productive so far this year. He's got 9 quarterback hurries and 4 sacks on top of it for a guy that can play inside and out. That production definitely matches the eye test there.
Right. The eye test, when production matches that, you're looking at an elite prospect. We see him go 4th overall here to Philadelphia. No surprise that Philly loves their edge play. They love bringing in guys who can get to the quarterback in a hurry. DeMarvin Leal, in a big upset win against Alabama this past week, showed that he is a prospect worth considering in the top 5. Pick number 5 now, we have the Houston Texans. Did not get the job done today against the New England Patriots. However, played them very close. Houston's been a surprise team for us. We thought that they were going to be picking 1 in this year's draft without Deshaun Watson playing this year. Of course, got that win week 1 and have had some competitive moments this year as well. Where's an area of improvement for this Houston Texan football team?
I think that they will be still looking for that quarterback spot. Obviously, Deshaun Watson leaves a lot of things in the air for this team. I think they will end up moving on from him, and they will draft Malik Willis, the most dynamic quarterback prospect in this class. He can get it done on the ground, but he can also get it done through the air. Really quick release, dynamic running quarterback. And for the Houston Texans, they're going to look for a little more dynamism in that offense. I don't think Davis Mills really offers that for you. However, having Malik Willis actually fall to 5 is exciting for this team.
Now, Austin, I know you're not necessarily a betting man, but if you had to place a bet right now on what team Deshaun Watson will be the quarterback of going into next season, assuming he's able to play, what team would you place your bet on?
I think the Denver Broncos would be the team I'd place my bet on. They're a team that needs a quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater has played pretty well this season. However, I think Denver's looking to make that jump in a division full of Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, and Patrick Mahomes. You have to have a competent quarterback and at least one in the top half of the league. So I think that they would be the team most motivated to do that.
Think about how talented that AFC West division could be if the Denver Broncos did land Deshaun Watson. That would definitely be a sight to behold, and Houston would get a ton of assets more than likely back in that deal as well. Moving to pick 6, we have the Philadelphia Eagles here yet again. They're slated to have 3 first-round picks in this year's draft and could really look to improve their football team. They went with DeMarvin Leal 4th overall. How do they come back and continue to improve this football team around that first selection?
They're going to look into the secondary. Kaiir Elam is going to be the pick. Had a great 2019 season, and so far this year, he has a 51.7 passer rating when he's being thrown at. It's really impressive what he's been able to do at Florida. Florida tends to produce a lot of NFL level corners. Tease Tabor being one of them, CJ Henderson another. And this is a team that definitely could use another corner in that secondary. I think pairing him with DeMarvin Leal, you're bringing in a lot of talent defensively.
Right. You're looking at 2 of the top defensive players in this year's class. And up to this point, we've seen a ton of defensive players go. 5 defensive players through the first 6 picks, Austin. Talk a little bit about the defensive strength of this year's class and how it kind of differentiates itself from classes we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I mean, even looking back to last year, that was a very much a quarterback dominant class, especially early on in the draft. It's not going to be the same this year. We just don't have that kind of level of quarterback play in college football. However, defensively, there are a lot of studs on that side of the ball. And it's really exciting to see some of these guys grow, such as a guy like that's still on the board in Aidan Hutchinson.
There is a lot of talent yet to be had here. After the first 6 picks, we've seen a lot of good defensive players go, but there's still a lot more here. Going on now to pick 7, we have the New York Football Giants here on the clock. Of course, a lot going on there. Kadarius Toney had a big-time breakout day, so shout out to him. Giants fans, you've got a lot to be excited about with him as an emerging weapon there. Austin, where can you see the New York Giants look to continue building and improving this football team?
I'm going with the athletic offensive lineman that offers an immense amount of upside in Evan Neal. Obviously, the New York Giants are going to be looking for some size on that offensive line. Dave Gettleman loves to draft, bigger offensive linemen and just bigger players in general. He offers great pass protection, also is going to be an absolute stud in the run game. Very, very solid pick here at number 7.
Right. One massive storyline to follow with New York Giants football. Today, against the Dallas Cowboys, they opted to start Nate Solder at left tackle, Matt Peart at right tackle, and bring Andrew Thomas off the bench. He was active, did not start in that game. Former number 4 overall pick. Could be a name to watch either on the trade block or as a replacement option for the New York Giants coming this next draft. Evan Neal would be a phenomenal upgrade, in my opinion, over what they currently have at that tackle spot. Pick number 8, we have the New England Patriots. Like I said earlier, a narrow win over the Houston Texans. They've got a lot of different things going on there. Mac Jones has looked a little up and down so far throughout his rookie year. He hasn't thrown for a ton of yards, but hasn't made a ton of mistakes either. He's keeping them in games and competing. That's exactly what you want there for New England if you're Bill Belichick. And I think defensively, there's a lot of areas that this team could look to go, especially after trading Stephon Gilmore this past week. Austin, where are you looking for New England at this point?
I actually have them taking wide receiver Garrett Wilson, who's been super consistent this year. Obviously doesn't offer the best size and athleticism, but he's a really good route runner and a guy that has a knack for finding the end zone as well. Garrett Wilson could be a very, very helpful piece to Mac Jones and that offense. Just considering, Jakobi Meyers is the number one guy there, and you'd like to really make some upgrades and strides there. Nelson Agholor being another big time playmaker for them. However, I just think they need a little bit more oomph in that wide receiver room.
Right. For those of you who have been keeping up with this series as we've gone throughout the year, as things have shifted around, you've probably noticed each and every week, Garrett Wilson takes another small step up the board. Here we find him finally going 8th overall. So he's really accelerated his draft position with his play this year for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And this is a good time to urge you guys to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on this series as we go through it. This is a fluid situation based on how these prospects are playing. There's a lot of other things that will shake this up as well, as teams are looking for different needs throughout free agency, throughout the NBA draft or NFL draft combine, There is a lot of things to keep up with. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest in the NFL draft news. Pick number 9. Now we have the Atlanta Falcons here. Matt Ryan's been playing really great as of late, 4 straight games with at least 2+ passing touchdowns. However, he is getting up there in age. The long-term future of the Atlanta Falcons probably hinges on finding a long-term replacement. Maybe if they could be behind him for a year and learn from him, or outright take the job from him. Austin, are you looking exclusively at quarterback here for Atlanta?
It's tough not to at this point. I know Atlanta was looking quarterback and thought long and hard about it last year. However, they were setting themselves up for this year to take a quarterback. And we're going to go with the guy that's played really well all year long. And that is Matt Corral, a guy I talked about potentially being the QB1 in this class. And the reason he did not go 1 is because Malik Willis has some unteachable traits that's really, really crucial in a quarterback. Matt Corral has a really good arm, also underrated athleticism. I think he is going to be the next quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. And the only reason, they take a quarterback is just because of Matt Ryan's age. He's obviously been playing pretty well as of late. However, the issue is with that age, you have to have a guy ready to take the reins next.
Matt Corral's really impressed me with his overall velocity that he gets behind his throw and also his rapid, quick delivery. I really have started to fall in love with him as a prospect, honestly, especially with the way that he delivers behind the line of scrimmage. I think he's going to avoid a lot of batted balls. I think he's got a lot of positive traits as well as ability to move on the ground. I really like what I've seen from Matt Corral. And like you said, last year, they positioned themselves long-term for a quarterback, and Kyle Pitts had his massive breakout day today, put up a ton of yards, had his first career touchdown as well. I could see Matt Corral delivering to Kyle Pitts for the next decade or so there in Atlanta. Pick 10, we have the Philadelphia Eagles yet again, 3 times in the top 10. They've gone defense with DeMarvin Leal, defense again with cornerback Kaiir Elam. Austin, are we going 3 for 3 on the defensive side of the ball here?
We are going to aggressively approach the defensive side of the ball, and we are going to add to the only level that we haven't touched so far, and that is the linebacking unit. And this is a guy who very well could start to climb boards later on the year. That's Christian Harris, very much a downhill thumping linebacker. However, I think he has some potential to get better in the pass game. And I think he's going to be a player that people are starting to get a little higher on as the process goes on. But Christian Harris is going to fill a definite need for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Eagles fans, you've got to be extremely excited about this here because you're not only touching your defensive line and your cornerback room, but you're also coming in with that third level of the defense, that linebacking room. Now, I know this is a very atypical pick of Philadelphia. For years, they've been looking at 2nd to 3rd round linebackers, and it just hasn't gotten the job done, honestly. It's time that they look at a linebacker here in round 1. Christian Harris, a phenomenal grab for Philadelphia. Austin, have you been surprised with the Eagles' production so far this year, especially with a win over Carolina today? Does that shake up kind of how you felt about them, especially offensively with Jalen Hurts playing so well?
Yeah, they've been much better offensively than I had really anticipated. So a lot of credit to them in that coaching staff. But Hurts has played a lot better than I really thought he could. I thought it was possible that they would look at quarterback this year, during the preseason, but now looking at it, maybe not. Maybe they're really going to actually try to build around Jalen Hurts. I think that this team is better or a little more well off than originally had anticipated.
Right. Jalen Hurts has really shown himself to be someone that they'll at least consider building around long term. I like this draft so far a lot for Philadelphia. This is an A-plus draft for them, in my opinion. Now, pick 11, we have the New York Jets here. This pick comes from Seattle with a lot of breaking news with Russell Wilson being out for possibly 4 to 8 weeks. There's some controversy between how long he's going to be out, but this is something that Jets fans want to hear. They're hoping Russell Wilson misses a lot of time, keep that Seattle team losing a lot of games with Geno Smith. Of all quarterbacks, Geno Smith might be helping the New York Jets here in 2021, getting a higher pick. Pick 11 now, Austin. We went Stingley earlier in the draft. Where do the Jets come back and look to go?
They have to look once again at the defensive side of the ball. I think they've made a couple of nice additions and focused some early draft capital on guys like Elijah Moore and Elijah Vera-Tucker. So they come back and take Aidan Hutchinson, who's been flying up boards with his play this year. So far, he has 5 sacks and 13 QB hurries thus far into the season. Really great production so far. And also, once again, the eye test matches it. This is going to be a player that keeps us sending up players' boards.
Right, looking at this, if the Jets are able to grab Derek Stingley, in my opinion, the top corner in this year's class, come back, grab Aidan Hutchinson, and add a healthy Carl Lawson next year to that defense, you're looking at a much improved product that'll be really key for what Robert Saleh looks to do there. One quick discussion point that I think we should touch on a little bit here for Jets fans, Austin, myself included, Zach Wilson. He's not looked great so far this year. There's been a ton of turnovers. We expect that, guys come in, they have mental errors. However, I have my own concerns over some of the physical mistakes, missing throws to the flat, missing throws crossing routes, especially when he's on the run this year. He hasn't hit the throws like he was able to at BYU. Are you hitting the panic button yet on Zach Wilson?
And I'm not. I think he's definitely still going to be the franchise quarterback. I know his play wouldn't indicate that. But once again, this is a guy that has a pretty good feel for the pocket. Just a couple of mental errors and a couple of just misfires. I think that he is going to continue to get better. And as you know, it takes time. Rookie quarterbacks, especially this season, have had a lot of issues, but I'm not hitting the panic button just yet and deeming him a bust.
That's what I'm praying for as well. I'm hoping he's the franchise guy. Jets fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about through the years of Mark Sanchez, Geno Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh McCown, and company. We've endured enough. Hopefully Zach Wilson is what we thought he could be. I had him number 2 on my big board last year. I'm hoping that it does pan out that way. Pick number 12, we've got the Minnesota Vikings here. Again, narrowly avoided the jaws of defeat against the Detroit Lions earlier today with Greg Joseph coming up huge for that football team. Where can we see the Vikings going? I know cornerback's been a popular pick. However, there might be a shakeup in this mock draft here.
I definitely thought about shaking it up, looking at that linebacker spot, but I don't love the overall depth. I actually am going back to the well with the corner. Ahmad Gardner is going to be the pick for me. I thought that Minnesota should look possibly at replacing Anthony Barr because he is on the final year of his deal, but corner is such a screeching need for this team. If they don't take one, I don't know really where it's going to come from because the corner depth in this class gets a little thin after that first round.
Right. We see a lot of really good, talented cornerbacks in round 1. It's going to be hard. A lot of teams are going to be jockeying for position to try and find their round 1 corner. Day 2 might see the well dry up a little bit, and the Vikings might get stuck without one if they don't take one 12th overall here. Pick 13, we have the Washington football team now on the clock. Quarterback's been the popular pick here, and I think that's probably going to stay true here. Just looking at the overall structure of this team, they have the weapons. They have the defensive front. They added a cornerback in free agency. They've got a lot of nice young pieces. Is it quarterback? Does it have to be quarterback here for Washington?
I don't think it has to be quarterback, but I think it's becoming more and more obvious that Taylor Heineke is not going to be your franchise quarterback, and they probably don't feel that way. He's a nice stopgap quarterback. He's a guy that can, win you a couple of games, but he can't take you to that next level. So that's why I'm going with Sam Howell. Not a guy that's going to wow you physically, but he's a guy that can deliver the ball on time, on target. And we've seen him struggle a little bit more out of the gate after losing his top receivers to the NFL draft. However, he's adjusted nicely after that first Virginia Tech game. He's kind of settled himself down. He was the guy that was projected number 2 before the season all started, falls to 13, and I think Washington's very happy about that.
Right. This could be really good value here for Washington. I know a popular topic of discussion when it comes to Sam Howell is, well, he had all this talent around him. Guys like Diami Brown, Michael Carter, also Javonte Williams. But at the same time, I think a counterpoint could be made. Maybe it's expected that he has a little bit of a drop off this year because you're working with a whole cast of new guys. You have that whole lack of chemistry. You haven't had the reps with these guys like you had a whole bunch of the players that just left for the NFL. He's adjusted. Like you said, he's picked up his play in recent weeks, and I think Sam Howell staying here in the top half of the first round makes a lot of sense. Washington getting a good player here, in my opinion. Pick 14, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bounce back win today against the Denver Broncos. They've picked up their play, especially they needed it this week with how they had fallen to 1-3 on the year. Now looking at 2-3. Where could the Pittsburgh Steelers look to go at the midpoint here of the draft?
And this is going to be a guy that's not even on PFF's big board overall at quarterback. I'm going to draft Tanner McKee for them, but this is really supposed to be Desmond Ridder. That is going to be the pick. I don't understand how they don't have Desmond Ridder on this. The dual threat quarterback from Cincinnati has led this team. He's been a terrific leader, a guy that can get it done through the air and on the ground, one of the better dual threat quarterbacks in the country. And the thing about him is I think he's perfect for Pittsburgh's offense. They have the receivers that can really help elevate his play. Obviously, they have the franchise running back as well. This could be a dangerous team with a mobile quarterback.
I really like the dynamism he could bring to that offense. We've seen it all year for the Cincinnati Bearcats. They're the number 3 ranked team in the nation. He's played lights out football at that quarterback spot, and yet somehow PFF doesn't have him on their website here for the draft simulator. Not exactly sure about that. However, he could be a really nice grab. Pick 14. Remember, this is not Tanner McKee going 14th overall. This is Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. Pick 15, we have the Miami Dolphins now on the clock, a team that I just think hasn't gotten the wheels moving this year. They've had a lot of struggles, Austin. How can Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins get back on track, especially with kind of the expectations that you and I had for them?
I think that they have to make sure that they are very, very sound up front. They have to have some smart offensive linemen. That's what Tyler Linderbaum is going to offer this team. Can be that true anchor in the middle for them. He offers the versatility to potentially play guard, but I think he can be a really, really good center at the next level. And if you're the Miami Dolphins, you want to protect Tua as much as you can. Who knows if that's really truly in the long-term plans, but for the time being, Tua is their quarterback, so you have to make sure you keep him upright. Tyler Linderbaum, very good in pass protection, also very good in the run. I love him as a prospect, and I think he's the perfect anchor for that offensive line.
I really love the Linderbaum pick here to Miami, specifically when you look at what happened with the LA Chargers, adding a top center in free agency, and the Arizona Cardinals bringing Rodney Houston as well. It's not a surprise that those two teams have performed much better this year. A center can really help direct traffic, help pick up blocking assignments, specifically for a young quarterback. I think Tua Tagovailoa would be really benefited by having an all-American level center added to his offensive front. Pick 16, now we have the New York Giants yet again on the clock here. Dave Gettleman has to make some decisions for this football team. How can he continue to look to improve this squad?
I'm going to have them go to that linebacker spot. I want to help them out on the second level of that defense. Nakobe Dean, a really good athlete from Georgia. Big reason why they are so stout defensively is for the work that he does on the defensive end. This is a guy that is rangy, really good between the tackles as well. And I think that this is kind of what the New York Giants need on that second level. A little bit more athleticism. Blake Martinez obviously being hurt. However, he's not that dynamic athlete like Nakobe Dean can be for this team.
Right. Nakobe Dean, a massive element to that Georgia Bulldog defense. They're ranked number 1 in the nation for a reason. He's a big part of that product there defensively. We see the Giants walking away from this mock draft with Evan Neal and Nakobe Dean. Pretty good grabs for the New York Giants. They're a team with a lot of young talent. They got the cornerback play figured out. Daniel Jones has looked better as of late. We'll see exactly what this team ends up being as we get closer to the end of the year, but I think that these are 2 good starting points for them here in round 1. Pick 17, now we're moving on to the Denver Broncos. Narrow loss today. However, they've got a lot of the things going right for them. We had named them earlier for a possible Deshaun Watson trade. Assuming they still have this pick on draft night, Austin, where are you looking for Denver to utilize pick 17?
Kingsley Enagbare is going to be the pick from South Carolina. Reason being, Von Miller, obviously in the last year of his deal, very crucial in this. Denver always wants to make sure that they have great pass rushers. That's what Enagbare can bring to this team. And quite frankly, they're going to be saving a lot of money by not having to pay Von Miller in the coming years. However, he's a great player, but he's on the wrong side of his career, and I don't think you really want to offer him a big time extension like he might be coveting. There's some other bad teams that will be willing to pay him based off of the namesake. Enagbare, very, very good replacement for Von.
There's no denying how big defensive presence that is there in Denver. They love to build up that defense. That's how they won a Super Bowl a few years back. Von Miller, with his aging, final year of his contract, they're looking for a long-term replacement, and Enagbare here from South Carolina would be a phenomenal addition onto that defensive front. Pick 18, we got the Tennessee Titans here. Again, a nice win today over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Derrick Henry did his part. However, I think that there's still some structural issues with this team, specifically along the offensive line. I think that they're really missing Arthur Smith, his motion style offense, getting a lot of guys moving before the snap, moving the eyes of the defense. Where does Tennessee look to improve this squad?
Tennessee should be looking at the tackle spot. Kenyon Green is going to be the best scheme fit for them. Obviously, they love to run the football. Kenyon Green is an absolute mauler in the run game. I love the fit here. Worst case scenario, you kick him into guard if you don't love him at tackle, but I think he will stick at tackle for his career. Great in the run game and a developmental player in the pass game.
Right. Offensive lines become a little bit of a theme here for Tennessee, just with how they performed this year. Giving Derrick Henry a little bit more help in front of him goes a long way in really producing for this team. And then it also helps Ryan Tannehill in the play action game, gives you another guy in front of you that you can count on protecting you. Also establishing that run early is going to help all elements of this football team there in Tennessee. Pick 19, we have the Carolina Panthers. Started out the season so well, just haven't been able to sustain it at this point. I think they're definitely missing Christian McCaffrey. They go to Minnesota this next week. We'll see, or actually Minnesota comes to Carolina rather. We'll see if they can get back on track against the Vikings. Sam Darnold had 3 interceptions today. Are you sold on Sam Darnold being the quarterback in Carolina? I think that's going to be an ongoing discussion this year, Austin. And then where do you have the Panthers going?
Yeah, finally, Sam Darnold took a little bit of a step back this week, obviously at the 3 costly turnovers, but I don't think we need to hit the panic button yet. We need to see more of the season play out. Let's look at that safety spot to pair with Jeremy Chin. You could make a dynamic duo by having Jordan Battle, 2 guys that in your secondary that would be very, very good tacklers. Jordan Battle is great at making open field tackles and plays. So just having 2 big time playmakers after your safety spot is going to be dangerous for this Carolina Panther defense.
Jordan Battle comes in. This Carolina defense has a lot of talent. Remember, they brought in Stephon Gilmore this most recent week, adding in another elite member to a secondary that is already really good. They brought in CJ Henderson. They've made all the right moves defensively. Matt Rule, that's been a big part of his tenure there, is really getting that defense going, and it's paid dividends. It's a very good football team now, and it looks like the sky's going to be the limit for this young football team. Pick 20, now we've got the Cincinnati Bengals, a very, very narrow loss to the Green Bay Packers in a wild game. There was about 5 missed field goals in the last 10 minutes of that game, game time. In overtime, finally lost to the Green Bay Packers on Mason Crosby's game-winning field goal. However, the Bengals have looked great. Jamar Chase is who we thought he was, Austin. Talk a little bit about Jamar Chase, his rookie season, and then where you think the Bengals need to look here at pick 20.
Yeah, Jamar Chase has been phenomenal this year. They clearly made the right pick, him over Penei Sewell. I just think that it's good that they waited because there is a really good offensive lineman here that they are going to be getting with this selection. Ikem Ekwonu from North Carolina State, best run blocker arguably in this class, also is a guy in pass protection that you can truly trust. I think this is a home run pick for them at 20, considering that they waited on taking a tackle until this year.
Right. At this point of the season, remember, in a 17-game season, Jamar Chase is roughly on pace for 1,600 receiving yards as a rookie. He's had that type of performance this year. He's scored a ton of big touchdowns. He's been everything that Cincinnati's needed him to be. And then you come back this year and finally find that tackle. You know, Joe Burrow's done a good job getting the ball out earlier this year too, I think. It's been a key part of him staying upright a little bit more in year 2 of his NFL career. And I think adding in a tackle still at this point makes all the sense in the world. They added Jackson Carman last year. He's been playing at guard for them. I like Cincinnati's front a lot more after grabbing Ikem Ekwonu 20th overall. Pick 21, we've got the New Orleans Saints pulled out a win against the Washington football team today. Jameis Winston connected on a few deep balls, including a Hail Mary at halftime. Austin, what do you think here now for New Orleans 21st overall?
I think they should look at that wide receiver spot. That's been pretty popular for us so far. Chris Olave is going to be the selection. A guy that is going to complement Michael Thomas very well. Michael Thomas, very, very good in the short to intermediate routes. However, if you want a deep, big play guy, Chris Olave can be that player for you. They need a little more dynamism in this offense, especially out wide. That's what Chris Olave can bring to your football team.
Right. We saw elements of what the deep ball can do for the New Orleans Saints today. Jameis Winston finally started airing it out. However, Chris Olave brings a more consistent dynamic to that offense, specifically down the field, like you mentioned. I like this a lot for New Orleans. We could really see the Superdome rocking sooner rather than later with Chris Olave back in the fold there in New Orleans. Pick 22, we're moving to the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that as the season progresses, I think we'll see them lower and lower and lower again, probably closer to that number 30 spot with how good of a football team they really have. However, here at 22, do they take advantage of being a little bit higher in this mock draft, go with an elite weapon, or do you still have them building up that defense, Austin?
Yeah, I definitely consider defense at this juncture. However, there's a player that's just too good to have them not select. That's Drake London, who's been arguably the best wide receiver in all of college football over the last couple of weeks. 6'5" target, really has a phenomenal catch radius as well. This would be really dangerous because Kansas City in the red zone targets Travis Kelce, but you really don't have another true red zone threat out wide. That's what Drake London can bring to this football team, and that would be extremely scary if he ended up there.
Right. A key thing about Kansas City, so much of their success comes from scheme and speed at this point. You bring in a big time wide receiver, someone who's physical, can high point the football, and has been a catch machine at USC this year. Drake London brings in a scary, scary element that I'm sure the rest of the NFL hopes to not see happen on draft night. Moving into pick 23, we've got the Buffalo Bills now on the clock at this point. We've been looking at cornerback almost exclusively, specifically for the tough matchup that Kansas City could be. If they bring in Drake London, does Buffalo have to match and go with a cornerback here to try and find someone who can match up with some of the speed and talent that the Chiefs have offensively?
I think Andrew Booth Jr. is going to be the selection for us. Reason being, they need a little more talent in that corner room. I'm pretty comfortable with their safety tandem and Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. However, you have Tre'Davious White, and then on the other side of them, you're going to add Andrew Booth Jr., a guy that can definitely come in day one and be an impact player for this team. And when you're playing against Kansas City and really trying to win an AFC title, I think that's what you need to add.
Right. Most definitely. Andrew Booth Jr. comes in here at 23 overall to the Buffalo Bills. Like this a lot. He's been climbing up the board as we've gone throughout this process as well. He's a name we can maybe even see go a little bit higher. Depends on how he really plays out the rest of this college football season. Austin's going to be keeping tabs on him to make sure you guys are getting the latest information that you need on the Clemson corner. Pick 24, we've got the Dallas Cowboys here on the clock. They've been so impressive this year, specifically Trayvon Diggs. With how great he's played, he deserves a shout out. His 6th interception of the season through 5 games. He's been playing lights out football. However, cornerback number 2 still might be a key positional need for Dallas, Austin. Is that how you see it?
Cornerback number 2 is going to be the pick here. Trent McDuffie, he's got that 5'11" frame, but he plays a little bigger than that. Really physical off the line and a true man guy that you can trust either in the slot or out wide. I love his versatility as a corner. And for Dallas, you do need that cornerback number 2. We've been screaming that to the rooftop. They opted to go with Micah Parsons last year, come back this year and take the corner that they really need. I think this is a great match.
For those of you who've been watching the series so far, you know that Austin's talked multiple times about Micah Parsons being the long-term replacement to one of the linebackers there. Jalen Smith this past week did get released. Austin was on it here. Cornerback this time, though, they finally have some financial flexibility. They're going to be able to figure some things out. Michael Gallup's going to be a player to watch for them this year to see how they deal with his contract situation. But Trent McDuffie, I think this is a phenomenal grab for Dallas. This is really good value at this point. And I think I could even see him going a little bit higher as well. There's so many good cornerbacks in round 1, Austin. Has that affected kind of how they go because of the supply and demand?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once we get down here, there's going to be some teams that have to move around because this corner class definitely going to be coveted and it's going to get thin quick, like I had mentioned. So teams are having to reach a little higher on some of these guys.
Right. Trent McDuffie now goes 24th overall. We transition to the Los Angeles Chargers, who had a shootout win over the Cleveland Browns today. At the time of recording this, of course, the mock was prepared right before the end of that game. So that's why you see the Chargers here at 25 and the Browns at 31. However, 25th overall now, Austin, the Chargers looking like a great product on the football field. Where can they really look to improve?
I think George Karlaftis from Purdue, he's been super consistent, quietly rising up people's boards, including my own. Definitely played very well in conference play. Karlaftis is going to be the pick opposite of Joey Bosa. This defense is looking scary. When they are healthy, they are potentially knocking on the door of true contention. And George Karlaftis next year could be a big impact player for them.
Chargers fans, you've got to get used to just smiling whenever your team makes a pick, because Tom Telesco seemingly does not miss, specifically in round one. Rashawn Slater looks like a massive hit. Mike Williams has become a big-time star this season. He's been putting up massive numbers. Justin Herbert was a phenomenal pick. Derwin James a few years. I mean, the list goes on for Tom Telesco, and George Karlaftis would be another example of that. The Chargers do such a good job evaluating talent in the draft, adding in elite players, and George Karlaftis across from Joey Bosa is a nightmare, specifically for some of those teams in the AFC West, like the Raiders, who we have here at pick 26, Austin. They started out the year so great, have been on a little bit of a losing streak now at this point. What are some of the things that they need to look at roster-wise in terms of roster construction that could help this team get back on track long term?
I noticed this a little bit in that game against Chicago, but they need a red zone guy, especially at that wide receiver spot. They thought Bryan Edwards can be that guy. I think Treylon Burks is going to be a phenomenal pick. 6'3", once again with the big catch radius, a guy that you can truly trust in a fade situation in the red zone. But he also makes big time plays outside the red zone. Now, let's not get that confused. He was absolutely huge against Ole Miss, made countless numbers of big plays for them. Treylon Burks is going to continue to rise up boards.
One of the not talked about storylines about the John Gruden, Mike Mayock era there in Las Vegas has been that receiving room. They've made countless moves trying to figure it out, trying to answer the bell. Remember, they made the trade for Antonio Brown, brought in Tyrell Williams in free agency. Those two moves did not work out, partially because of health and partially because Antonio Brown just simply didn't want to be in Oakland anymore at that point. Then as the Las Vegas Raiders, they drafted Henry Ruggs 11th overall. He hasn't produced at the level that I think they've been hoping for. Treylon Burks, I think, is a phenomenal counterpart to both Darren Waller and Henry Ruggs. You're looking at a really dynamic piece for that offense. Pick 27, we're moving to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now. Tom Brady, 411 pass yards, 5 touchdowns today. Is he on your MVP watch, Austin? And then where do the Buccaneers go?
He has to be right there. I think guys like Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Tom Brady definitely deserve some consideration at this point in the season. So very, very impressive. But how are we going to help Tom Brady? Once again, yes, we are talking about how are we going to help Tom in the future, because it's very possible he comes back for maybe 2-3 years. We aren't exactly sure what the timeline is, but we are going to look at that tackle spot, offer up a guy in Darian Kinnard who could actually offer up some cap relief for this team. Reason being, they could cut Donovan Smith in this situation, free up some money to eventually re-sign Chris Godwin long-term. That's the motivating move with this pick.
Darian Kinnard's been a massive part, an emphasis on the massive there for that offensive lineman of Kentucky's rise to success this year. They're ranked 11th in the nation currently at the time we're recording this video. They've had a phenomenal year, starting 6-0, and I think the Kentucky Wildcats offensive tackle here, Darian Kinnard, would help Tampa Bay continue that success into the NFL. Quick question for you, Austin. Who finishes their career first, Zach Wilson or Tom Brady?
I think the easy answer is Tom Brady in that one.
Right. Like, honestly, it sounds like a joke, but we never really know with Tom. Who would have thought a decade ago that we'd be planning for him to play until about 2023, 2024, possibly? He's someone who, it feels like he's going to play until he's like 65 years old at this point. So I don't want to count out Tom anytime soon. Pick 28, we've got the Detroit Lions on the clock again. Remember, they went Kyle Hamilton 2nd overall. Is it more defense here, Austin, for the Detroit Lions, or are they trying to look in some other areas for this football team?
I thought about defense for sure at this pick, or even wide receiver, which is a big need for this football team. But we are going pure value. Spencer Rattler finally goes off the board, who just got benched this past weekend. Even if he doesn't play the rest of the way, I think there is a pathway where he still ends up being a first-round pick just because of those physical tools, those traits. Something you really like about Spencer Rattler is escapability. There's multiple tools here, and for him to be at 28, I think Detroit's really happy because you can have your long-term backup, or he can eventually be that true franchise quarterback. Now, I know a lot of people are extremely low on him at this point in the year. I totally understand that. I'm a little shaky on him myself, But from Detroit's angle, I could see them doing this.
You had talked about moldable traits for Spencer Rattler. I know that there's going to be a lot of flack for this pick. This pick alone is going to probably get the most flack on the entire video. Detroit fans seem to not like us to start with us, and then we go ahead and mock him, a quarterback who just got benched for a true freshman at his college. However, he's got those moldable traits that you talked about. Can you go into depth on some of those so that Detroit Lions fans can really see why the value still could be here for Spencer Rattler, 28th overall?
It's going to be interesting to see how the transfer portal situation is handled, or can he just outright win the job back, which is possible. But the big thing about him is his quick release and his big time arm. He has an absolute cannon, and he's also pretty good at maneuvering the pocket as well. So those are the key things that you want to see in a quarterback in the new era of where the quarterback can move in the pocket, can really climb up it or run. Especially Spencer Rattler. That's why he's going 28, just because I think Detroit would be intrigued by those traits.
Remember, football fans, Spencer Rattler was projected the first overall pick at the start of the process, not only by us, but by a lot of people around the NFL. Spencer Rattler was presumed to be the guy that was going to take the world by storm, win that number 1 overall pick status, and be the guy that every team wanted to get their hands on this draft. It just hasn't played out that way. Oklahoma struggled some ways. Spencer Rattler hasn't pulled away with that job yet, but we'll see. This is a situation to monitor. Remember, it's a fluid situation at this point. Spencer Rattler moved down a lot of spots in this mock. We'll see going into next week. It might change even more. Just stay tuned with us. Moving into pick 29, we've got the Baltimore Ravens now on the clock, a team that, again, does so well drafting in the first round. They find a ton of talent. We haven't gotten to see Rashad Bateman quite yet this year. Where are you looking for Baltimore at this spot in order to improve their squad?
They have to look along that offensive line. Really, the focus would be in the run game. Nicholas Petit-Frere is going to be the pick from Ohio State just because he has really ascended his play as of late. He's been elite in pass protection, also very good in the run game. The Baltimore Ravens obviously are going to be looking to replace Orlando Brown long term, and this is the pick that they are able to do that.
Stylistically, I think he comes in, fits very well with Baltimore. You had talked about his success in the pass game, and I think he's also an underrated run game tackle as well. I think he can help them in a lot of different areas. And it's been clear throughout this process that Baltimore wants to improve their passing game. You bring in a tackle who can help in pass protection. You have a wide receiver in Rashad Bateman, who I think is going to be very, very good, getting open early and often as a route runner. So you're looking at a nice combination for Lamar Jackson looking for the future. Pick 30, we've got the Green Bay Packers here. They've gotten their season on track. They look like they're in a rhythm now at this point. Are the Packers good enough to win a Super Bowl this year, Austin, with Aaron Rodgers? And then where do you have them going 30th overall?
You really can never count out an Aaron Rodgers-led team because he's just that special. But, let's kind of look at moving forward with Jordan Love here. In this mock draft, I think they have to look wide receiver. That's been a common theme with all of our selections. John Mechie is still here. He is making strides in that Alabama offense, getting a little more comfortable with Bryce Young. John Mechie III could fit in nicely and could be a wonderful, wonderful complement to Davante Adams if Davante is still around.
Right, and that's going to be the big if. If Davante is still around, he is a pending free agent as well. We'll see. Las Vegas possibly could be one of those teams looking at him. A reunion between Fresno State quarterback Derek Carr and Fresno State wide receiver Davante Adams could be something to watch for. There's a lot going on Green Bay's front. Make sure you stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything for Packers Nation. Pick 31, now we've got the Cleveland Browns, another team that has just been so phenomenal drafting, adding talent the organic way. Baker Mayfield was a great pick, number 1 overall. Remember looking at the other guys right around him, Saquon Barkley and also Sam Darnold. Clearly Baker Mayfield, the best selection of those 3 guys there. Where should Cleveland look to go 31st overall now, Austin?
Yeah, I think Drake Jackson's a good fit here. Jadeveon Clowney, it's very possible he is not back next season. What you love about Drake Jackson is the moldable tools that you have with him. He's pretty athletic, but the big thing is he has outstanding reach. He's a strong guy as well. But for Drake Jackson, he falls a little bit from where he was in the preseason. He was projected to be a near top 5 pick. He's all the way down at 31, but he is starting to make some strides to show that he can be a really good edge in this class.
Right. Austin, let's put you in the GM chair for just a second here. I want to get your thoughts on this. You're drafting in the NFL at some point. What is the cutoff really? What would you prefer? Someone who's shown a ton of production or someone who's shown those moldable traits. Obviously, the combination of those two is when you get really special players like Chase Young, for example. Which way would you prefer to go building a football team?
If I really have a belief in my coaching staff, I am looking at those moldable traits because that's where those true star players come from. Obviously, some of those productive guys they end up being productive at the NFL level, but I think the truly special guys have the true moldable traits. We look at guys like Josh Allen, did not have the production in college, but to take that chance. Also, a guy like Justin Herbert as well was not phenomenal statistically at the college level, but ended up being a great NFL player. It really comes down to those moldable traits.
Right. It comes down to more than just what their production looks like in college. Remember, some of these guys perform at a much higher level when they get to the NFL. Drake Jackson could be a candidate of this, specifically landing in Kevin Stefanski's system there, obviously, and the coaching staff that Cleveland has. They do a great job developing players, and I think Drake Jackson could really excel there in Cleveland. Now, we're here at the final pick of the first round, the Arizona Cardinals here. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed today's video and you're still here at this point. Also, subscribe if you're enjoying the content. We'd love to have you be a part of what we do here at Utility Sports. We've got an exciting jersey giveaway to announce very, very soon here on the channel as well. Now, Austin, the Arizona Cardinals here at this spot. Which way are you going for this team?
I think it's going to be clear all year long that we are looking at the corner spot. Roger McCreary is going to be the pick. Good hits, fluid inside and out. I think that he does have the ball skills to be a good corner at the next level. And for the Arizona Cardinals, you have to make sure you have another guy opposite of Byron Murphy. Robert Alford's the current corner number 2. But if you get a guy like McCreary, I think you're a lot better off.
Most definitely, McCreary could add some help there. Let's give a quick scroll through the draft grades here. If there's anything interesting standing out, of course, PFF loves to see the quarterbacks going off the board. Remember that Tanner McKee pick is not actually Tanner McKee. That is Desmond Ridder from the University of Cincinnati. The Bearcats have been great all season long. He's a big reason why. And Austin, looks like you figured it out here because you're getting a lot better grades this time around. Of course, these grades are very subjective, though, and built kind of around PFF's opinion. And remember, they didn't even have Desmond Ridder draftable in this mock draft. So it's not like PFF knows everything that's going on. Desmond Ridder, very likely going to be a very early pick in this year's draft. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Leave a like on today's video. Subscribe again. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.